How many times have you read the Sutras? I came out. Master, teach me Kung Fu.
Welcome. This is Dhammapada study, first pada. First pada is the Dharma. Dharma means universal law, universal truth. It's the introduction into the philosophy that you need to fully understand. In the first sutra, in the original text, the way that it's written is that they basically mainly have two translations if you read other translations. The first one is yoga takes place now, and they're insinuating that your journey on yoga is taking place now, and also at the same time they're saying that yoga takes place right now. The other translation is yoga happens in this moment, Atta Yoga Nusanam. My translation is yoga is being fully present in this moment, body, mind, emotion, spirit, and soul. Second sutra, yoga is stilling the mind. A very common translation is yoga is cessation of the fluctuations in the mind. My Buddhist influence translation, yoga is keeping the mind calm and focused. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. 1-3. Then the mind rests within the soul. Then the seer dwells within its own light. The spirit experiences itself when the mind is still. Thank you so much for joining me for this study. Welcome. Sutra 1-4, first pada, the Dharma. Otherwise, the soul identifies with the fluctuating consciousness. At other times, emptiness assumes the forms of the movements in the mind. Third translation, the spirit identifies itself with mental states when the mind is moving. Fourth translation, otherwise the seer becomes attached to that which is impermanent. So here we can call it the soul, but you'll see in some of the translations they call it the seer, and they're insinuating that it's the thing that's actually seeing. 1-5. The fluctuations in consciousness are 5 in origin. They may be detectable or hidden, painful or painless. I'll give the second translation for this one too. There are 5 categories of mental movements. They can bring affliction or be free from affliction. Sutra 1-6. They are caused by right knowledge, wrong knowledge, delusion, sleep, and remembrance of things past. Let me give the second translation for this. They are correct knowledge, false assessment, imagination, sleep, and memory. So these are the 5 things that cause the mind to fluctuate, to go into thought. 1-7. The sources of correct knowledge are direct perception, logical reasoning, and factual texts. So right here, this is important. You have a lot of people arguing. One of the biggest things I see people arguing about or debating about, mostly arguing, is I believe this or I believe that. In the beginning, you have to believe. If you can't see it, you have to believe. But in the end, if you keep studying, it has to be able to be logically explained. Even higher truths that sometimes people who understand lower truths don't understand, a higher truth never crosses a lower truth. It just takes higher logical reasoning to understand it. The other way you know if something's real is if you perceive it by yourself. And the third way is factual text. And that's why the holy text is so important, because they're factual texts. Our ancestors left these texts to us so that we would know. 1-8. Wrong knowledge originates from a distorted understanding of what is real. 1-9. Uncertainty arises when knowledge is based on words alone and is devoid of reality as its basis. So you can't just assume something's right. If you can't logically or through inference and discernment explain that it's real, or you don't have a personal experience, or somebody who you trust isn't telling you, you can't just assume something is real. And if you assume something that's false to be real, you'll have wrong understanding. And if you have wrong understanding, you can't attain ultimate wisdom. because your thought is it's wrong thought, it's wrong understanding, it's delusion understanding. 110. Dreamless sleep is the mind state that is absent of perception. So now right here you're going to see abhava, pratyaya, alambana, vritti, nidra. Okay, so vritti, this is fluctuation. Nidra, this is the state of consciousness where you're in dreamless sleep. And this pays a big importance in yoga, because you have to know the three states of consciousness and combine the three states of consciousness. If you can combine the three states of consciousness into one, you'll automatically get super consciousness. 111. Memory is the unaltered remembrance of words and experiences. 112. Repeated practice and non-attachment control these fluctuations of the mind. So the fluctuations of the mind as they occur, the only way to overcome the fluctuations of mind, which attach the soul into the physical realm and trap you in samsara, the cycle of pain and pleasure, life and death, is through repeated practice. 113. Effort towards steadiness of mind is practice. So right here, when we're meditating, we're practicing steadiness of mind, but also in yoga, when you're doing your poses, when you're holding these uncomfortable poses, by practicing steadiness in the body, you're also practicing steadiness in the mind. 114. Practice becomes firmly grounded when practiced vigilantly for a long time. 115. Renunciation is the practice of freedom from desire. Well, here in 114, after every experience, you're supposed to meditate, because when you judge the experience at the end, you have an opportunity to introspect it. And it's through introspection that you can understand higher knowledge and become one with the soul. Renunciation is the practice of freedom from desire. 116. The highest level of renunciation is when one transcends all earthly attachments and perceives the soul. 117. Continued effort and non-attachment develops 4 types of samadhi: self-analysis, union, bliss, and the experience of pure being. 118. When practice of cessation to mental fluctuations is firmly rooted, only the impressions remain. So when you still your mind, after you practice stilling the intellect and the ego, then the memories that you have remain and they bubble up. When the memories bubble up, they become pure wisdom and experience themselves. The memories themselves actually have energy to them. And when they bubble up, when you see like the halo, the memories are in that type of energy. It becomes conscious knowledge. 119. In asamprajnata samadhi, one may experience existence without a body or become one with nature. This sometimes leads to isolation, deep loneliness, or intense longing. 120. One must practice with confidence, vigor, alert memory, and power of absorption to break the spiritual complacency. See, there's a couple things. When it says alert memory, right? A couple things you need to know is, number one, if you get angry or agitated, that affects memory. And sexual activity, that really affects the memory. So when you're developing sharpness of mind, you have to have alert memory. The thoughts and the memories, they happen so fast and they form so fast. 121. Those who practice vigorously with intensity are close to the goal. 122. There are differences between those who are half-stepping, average, and serious about their practice. So if you really want to attain full enlightenment, you have to take it seriously and you have to practice devoutly. You can practice for 3 weeks straight. And if you just give up and fall back into your old habits, or just start chasing pleasure for pleasure's sake, or start stressing out again, you lose all the ground gained. Or the consciousness may be stilled by deep meditation on God and total surrender to Him. This is why it says recitation of the sutras. If you're reciting the sutras, you're going to get there. 124. The Supreme Being is God, entirely free from conflicts, unaffected by actions, and untouched by cause and effect. 125. God is the origin of all energy and all knowledge. 126. God is the Alpha and the Omega, the teacher of all beings with no beginning and no end. 127. God's sound form is Om. 128. Repetition of the syllable Om with full presence of mind, body, and soul will allow one to realize its full significance. 129. Japa of Om while meditating on God clears hindrances to self-mastery. 130. The hindrances to spiritual enlightenment are disease, inertia, doubt, carelessness, laziness, sensuality, erroneous views, failure to keep one's understanding firmly grounded, and slipping from the ground gained. So 130 and 131 are two of the most important sutras in the book because they explain the main 10 hindrances to spiritual enlightenment. Then the next one explains the symptoms that accompany these hindrances. The symptoms that accompany these hindrances are pain, despair, anxiety, and disturbed breathing. So if you want to remove pain, if you want to remove despair, anxiety, depression, disturbed breathing, then you have to remove the main 10 hindrances. If you remove the main 10 hindrances, what accompanies them will be gone. And look what the first one is, pain. So pain has a cause. What's pain's cause? This is pain's cause. So when you remove the causes, there's nothing else to cause you any more pain. 132. Practicing single-minded concentration is the best way to prevent the hindrances and their accompaniments. So that's the sixth limb of yoga, one-pointed concentration. 133. Inner peace is achieved and maintained by cultivating friendliness towards those who are happy, compassion for those who suffer, goodwill towards the virtuous, and indifference towards the non-virtuous. 134. The mind can also be calmed by holding the breath after exhalation. 135. Or by contemplation of an object that helps maintain steadiness of mind and consciousness. 136. Or by concentrating on the luminous, blissful light within. Let me give the three translations for this one. Or inner stability is gained by remaining free of sorrow and filled with light. Third translation. Or inner stability is gained by contemplation of pure light and consciousness. All three are important. Some of the sutras in this book, I attempted to put the best one first so that you can just read the first one. But like in this sutra here, all three of them were so important. So some of them you really got to read all the translations. 137. Or when the consciousness is free from longing. 138. Or by concentrating on the consciousnesses experienced while dreaming and during dreamless sleep. This is what I'm telling you. There's three main states of consciousness. That's it. You have the awake state, which is how I am right now. I'm in a physical body. I'm using my brain. I'm using my senses. You have the dreamless sleep. That's the point that happens between when you hit the pillow and when you dream. And then the dreaming state. You have to meditate on all three states and make them one. If you can meditate on all three states and make them one, you'll achieve super consciousness. 139. Or the mind becomes concentrated and still by meditating on anything one chooses. 140. When concentration is mastered, one gains mastery of the smallest to largest dimensions. 141. When the mind and the heart are purified, the practitioner realizes that the knower, knowable, and knowledge are one. The mind is like a mirror that has had the dust wiped clean. 142. At this stage called Savitarka Samadhi, the word, meaning, and content are blended, becoming special wisdom. 143. In Nirvitarka Samadhi, you realize the difference between memory and intellectual illumination. Your memory becomes cleansed, and the light of consciousness shines with blissful purity. Well, that's why. See, these sutras, they're so dense. There's so much wisdom in each line, and it's not enjoyable. I enjoy it, but it's not like entertainment. Like people like things that entertain them. These lines they have to be studied and recited. It's only for people who are serious about reaching liberation. 144. Savichara Samadhi and Nirvichara Samadhi are the contemplation of the subtle aspects, so deliberate and non-deliberate. That's simply either you're deliberately introspecting or you're non-deliberately introspecting. The subtlest dimension is consciousness. When consciousness dissolves in the space around you, it loses all attachments and becomes pure. Again, 145. This sutra right here is one of the most important sutras in the book. When the consciousness, the subtlest dimension is consciousness itself. It runs through everything. When the consciousness dissolves in the space around you, it loses all attachments and becomes pure. Very important sutra. 146. The states of samadhi described previously are dependent upon previous knowledge, which can lead to attachment. 147. From mastery of nirvichara samadhi, near again, you're going to see near all the time in your studies. Nirvana, nirvichara, nidra. Near means without. It's the negate of what is. From the mastery of nirvichara samadhi, purity is attained and undisturbed, illuminated consciousness flows, igniting the spiritual light of the self. 148. When consciousness and wisdom become one, limitations are removed. Then the practitioner is capable of knowing anything and everything. 149. The absolute truth is all-encompassing, limitless, and infinite. 150. The light of this realization bears the fruit of an evolved life. All previous mental impressions are left behind and new ones are prevented from forming. 151. When this impression is wiped out, all impressions are completely eradicated and perfect self-realization is achieved. So that's it. We flew through the first pada. When I'm reading it, I'm passionate about it. I enjoy the study. I like doing it. So it's going to push you along in your practice if you let me read it for you. Just to read the first pada, we just did it in how long? 18 minutes, 17 minutes. So it takes only 17 minutes to read and study the first pada, but to embody every sutra, you have to intellectually understand it, you have to commit it to memory, and then you have to embody its essence. And it's through recitation of the sutras that you'll be able to retain them. Now, the first one is the Dharma. You have to understand the philosophy and the logic behind it. But where yoga steps up, where philosophy leaves off, is in the second pada. The second pada is sadhana pada. Sadhana is your spiritual practice. So the second pada is practice. So in the first pada, you're studying, why am I doing this? What is yoga? What is the purpose of this? You have to understand the 10 main hindrances and their 5 accompaniments. You're doing this to rise above pain. Then in the second pada, they discuss how to practice to go along with your philosophy. And when you practice with the philosophy, it becomes more than just philosophy. It becomes an actual physical, existing, spiritual entity that you transform. It's a transformation. But if you don't do the sadhana pada, if you don't do the sadhana, you're not going to get anywhere in your practice. You have to have the knowledge, the wisdom, the dharma, and you have to do the austerity practices along with the dharma. Thanks so much for watching. We're going to be doing the Dhammapada chapter 21 at 8 o'clock. Thank you so much. Be well.